What is up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to play fish versus a c-bet. So the fish is c-betting on the flop and we are responding to his c-bet. We're going to look at our notes and we're going to compare two spots. The first spot is going to be a button versus big blind spot. We're in the big blind and the fish is on the button. And the second spot is a small blind versus big blind spot. These are two very different spots, but we need to understand why these spots are so different when we play against fish. Let's look at two hand histories to illustrate what I mean. In the first spot, the fish is on the button. He RFIs 2.5x. I have a hand. Let's say I have ace-7 suited. I'm in the big blind. I call. The flop comes queen 8-2, and my fish friend bets 50 on the flop. Remember, the most common c-bet sizing from a fish is half pot, so you will encounter this the most. So our fish friend bets 50 on the flop, and we have a 0 EV decision. Should I be calling? Should I be folding? Should I be randomizing? What should I be doing, and why? Well, in order to understand the flop, we first have to go to the turn. What do we know about fish? We know when a fish bets 50% on the flop, it is the least barreled size on the turn. We also know that we have more implied odds versus a fish than versus a reg. So continuing more on the flop when we are at a position as the pre-flop caller makes sense because of these two reasons. The fish, when they bet 50 on the flop, will barrel the least on the turn with that sizing, and also because we have more implied odds. Now let's take a look at a single raise pot in position pre-flop caller spot. That means small blind versus big blind. In this spot, the fish is in the small blind, I'm in the big blind, and I call. Let's say I have 10-7 suited this time. The same board comes down. Our fish friend bets 50% on the flop, and I again have a 0 EV spot. What should I do in this spot? Well, we have to understand how fish think. We have to realize that fish do not play like regs. What is the fundamental difference between a fish and a reg? Regs understand position. Fish do not understand position. What does that mean? How does that manifest itself in this spot? If a fish doesn't understand position, then he's going to play the small blind the same as the button. He doesn't realize that GTO should be barreling less in the small blind versus big blind spot than button versus big blind. So he's going to barrel similar frequencies. We can see this in the data. Let's look at data for the field as single raise pot at a position pre-flop raiser. What do you notice from fish? Bet 50 on the flop, GTO on the turn is 42 to 46%. Fish are going 58. But then compare this to button versus big blind. I compare this to button versus big blind and they're going around 56. So what does that mean? That means that we need to overfold flop. Because the fish doesn't understand position and he has similar barreling frequencies in a small blind versus big blind spot as he does in a button versus big blind spot, we need to overfold flop because we can't realize equity on the turn. He's supposed to be barreling between 42 and 46 and he's barreling 58. So our exploit versus a fish is to overfold flops in a small blind versus big blind, but we can call more in the button versus big blind because if they use bet 50, they barrel around GTO percentages and we have more implied odds versus a fish. So our exploit is, because fish do not understand position, we overfold in the big blind versus a small blind c-bet, and versus a button versus big blind, we can overcall because we know it is the least barreled sizing on the turn when they use half pot, and we have more implied odds. All right, guys, I thought this was a very cool concept. It kind of illustrates us getting into the mind of a fish, realizing that a fish doesn't understand position, so he's going to play small blind versus big blind, very similarly to button versus big blind. So we take advantage of this fact and we overfold in the small blind versus big blind, but overcall in the button versus big blind. If you enjoy this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.